welcome to Tag Talk. Tag Talk is an opportunity for us in the Adjutant General Directorate to share with you what is here at HRC in the Adjutant General Directorate and give you a little bit of look under the hood. I'm the 62nd Adjutant General, Brigadier General Hope Rampy, and today I'd like to highlight our Casualty and Mortuary Affairs Division. With us is the new Division Chief. And so, Michelle, welcome to HRC, and give you a chance to kind of introduce yourself, and who do you have with you today?
Yes, ma'am. Good morning. Thank you for having us. I'm Lieutenant Colonel Michelle Schomburg. I'm just coming from the Senior Service College, the Eisenhower School at Fort McNair, and prior to that, I am a former battalion commander out of Fort Bragg, North Carolina. Ma'am, what's great about this Army directive is it did not exist while I was a battalion commander. But just in the couple of months that I've been here with CMOD operating under the directive, it's an incredible tool for commanders, and I'm excited to share some information with you today. I'm joined by Andy Newbrow, who is our case manager. He is our AUN DUSTWUN expert. A lot of insight behind the policy and things that he'll share today. So Andy, thanks for joining us as well.
Thank you for having me, ma'am.
So you mentioned the Army directive. You talked about absent unknown and DUSTWUN. And so the new Army directive, just so the field knows what we're trying to highlight here, is determination and reporting of missing, absent unknown, absent without leave, and duty status whereabouts unknown soldier. So it's really a mouthful. So what is this Army directive about?
So what the Army directive does is it clarifies expectations and responsibilities for commanders, law enforcement agencies, and public affairs offices throughout the force. It creates an additional duty status code, as you mentioned, absent unknown. And what that absent unknown is, it provides an initial 48 hours for the commanders to make a determination if that soldier's absence is voluntary or involuntary. It provides the guidance, as you stated, for the AUN, the AWOL, as well as the DUSTWUN is duty status whereabouts unknown. It enables commanders and law enforcement agencies to leverage additional resources in order to make that determination as to where that service member may or may not be, as well as if that absence is voluntary or involuntary.
Thank you very much, Andy. I think I'd really like to do a follow-up question to that and just kind of understand, why was this policy made up?
Yes, ma'am. So because of some high-profile cases and the incident at Fort Hood in 2020, at the direction of Army senior leadership, we really looked hard at this directive using the existing regulations, along with the multiple Army agencies required to be involved in this process in order to help commanders get the flexibility, the resources, and the time necessary to leverage their authorities in order to make that initial determination on a soldier's absence being voluntary or involuntary.
Yeah, it's great. I think it really, like you said, it provides the commanders, it provides CMOD, and provides installation resources, really the flexibility to have a little bit of breathing room, but also I think more importantly, it really synchronizes the efforts.
Yes. Just
across CMOD, the CACs, the commanders, CID, the MPs, and just know from our purview, being able to synchronize those efforts and everybody being on the same sheet of music in a short period of time has really allowed us to, find soldiers and keep family members informed as we're keeping people first. So now that we have this new directive and we're giving more flexibility to commanders, someone goes missing and we give them the first 24, 48, 72 hours to say, hey, let's take a step back. We're not going to call them AWOL, we're going to call them missing, and we can make that transaction in email PO. Michelle, how do you think it's been received by the field?
Overall, ma'am, this directive has been received very well in the field, by the units that have had to utilize it to date. And unfortunately, there's still some education and training aspects that do need to occur, and installation level standard operating procedures that are critical behind making this directive and all of the agencies and stakeholders and resources that are leveraged behind this directive. As Andy mentioned, commands and law enforcement often defaulted to AWOL, and the great thing about this directive, ma'am, is that it's truly changing the culture of the Army by putting soldiers first, and it allows commanders that time and that flexibility to gather the evidence and to make the determinations necessary to truly understand the absence and the duty status of our soldiers every day in the United States Army.
Yeah, that's awesome to hear. So you mentioned the utilization by commanders. So how has it been used? Has it proved pretty helpful for the field?
So to date, it actually has proved relatively useful. Obviously, you know, with any new program, there are some challenges that are associated with that. But to date, we've had just over 500 soldiers that have been reported as absent unknown. Now, subsequently, some of those soldiers, or most of those soldiers, were reported back to duty in very short order, some longer than others. But there have also been soldiers that went from an AUN to an AWOL status. However, to date, there have been 26 soldiers reported as missing status, which
Wow.
gives our office additional oversight.
Yeah, so you talked about, you know, people working through a new directive. What are some of the barriers or challenges that we've seen with it?
Yes, ma'am. So one that I want to highlight before I allow Andy to speak to the casualty piece of it is that every agency and stakeholder that's directed in this policy to take action in those initial days, be it the command making the initial contact with family, public affairs leveraging media resources and outlets, and then the law enforcement folks tapping into the resources that already exist. Every attempt to locate the soldier. These are all intended to work in the command's favor. It's not a negative, nor is it a black eye on any command to exercise this directive and to ensure that the authorities that they have in place and the resources that surround them on that local installation are leveraged as quickly as possible.
That's great. You know, I mentioned at the beginning that CMOD is just one of the divisions in the Adjutant General Directorate, but one of them that has a lot of information, not just the absent unknown directive, to share. And so just a reminder, you can go to Human Resources Command, check out our website, and go to the TAG Directorate, and go to Casualty Mortuary Affairs Division. And so you can find more information, and hopefully we'll get some new information posted about the directive. What would you say is one of the greatest assets of this new program?
Yes, ma'am. So when HRC and CMOD approves a DUSTWUN status on a soldier, that soldier is officially now a casualty in the United States Army. So we conduct then official notification of the next of kin. Casualty assistance officers are assigned to those next of kin, and we maintain the visibility alongside the command in order to ensure that every effort continues to remain in place until that soldier is either returned to military control or that soldier is recovered from the circumstances in which they found themselves to be in. And again, ma'am, it goes back to this directive is truly changing the culture of our military in a people first aspect, but also it's a commander's tool that genuinely gives them the execution checklist in order to maintain the accountability and the good order and discipline across our formations.
Yeah, and I'm glad you highlighted about providing the families or the primary next of kin, whoever the beneficiary is, with a CAO, so a casualty assistance officer or casualty assistance non-commissioned officer, to really keep the family informed, but also serve as a bridge between that command and that family. And Andy, you talked a little bit about what it does, you know, for commanders. What can an installation and the commanders do to better prepare for a missing soldier?
I think one of the best things that the commanders in the field can do is to familiarize themselves with the Army directive at all levels. Because when you have a missing soldier, it's not just that unit commander with the boots on the ground who's closest to the troops dealing with this. This is going to be commander, all the way up the force. This gets general officer involvement very quickly, and the visibility associated with that. As Colonel Schomburg mentioned, this program is there to help, to assist. There should not be a negative connotation associated with reporting a service member missing. That's what the program was designed to do. Conducting training and exercises, I think that's real important, and involving all levels of the command in this training and part of that exercise, because again, not just that unit commander, that captain down on the ground is not going to be the only person that's dealing with it.
You mentioned doing exercises like battle drills, and so just like we do a battle drill in our talks for commanders, what are things that we can do on the installation to prepare? You talked about for the commands, but to a person, how can we better prepare for this?
Well, one way to better prepare is to understand the Army directive itself. Additionally, the units or installations should be integrating the missing soldier exercise into their SOPs, because it's something that you're going to need at some point in time, and you'd rather have it and not need it than not have it and need it. And having that SOP will provide useful for all levels throughout an installation.
So really, if I was on an installation, I think if I were a commander or I was an S1, do you know the people at your Casualty Assistance Center? Do you know who's trained to be a CAO or CNO? And then more importantly, have you talked through the missing actions? What would you take on installation? And then to a person, what about your own personal documents? What do you want to talk about?
So absolutely, ma'am, and that's key. There is the DD-93. The DD-93 is imperative, and the reason that is so important is when a service member is taken to a missing status, that DD-93 is used to make official notification. It's not going to be whatever the soldier wants, because obviously that soldier we can't make contact with. But that DD-93, when that soldier becomes a casualty in a missing status, official notification is going to be used based upon the information provided on that DD-93.
Yeah, that's great. We can't drive that home enough. Just ask for commanders, individuals, S1s, rather than just check the block that they have an updated SGLI and DD-93 based on a date. Have a conversation with them. Ask about the primary next of kin. Is it accurate? And if you had to make a phone call tomorrow, would you have the right information? Just want to say thanks again for coming. Glad that I could drag you out of the office, Andy. And then to Lieutenant Colonel Schomburg, welcome to the TAG team. And so for those out in the field, TAG Talk is all about keeping you informed, because we work for you in the field. Check us out on Human Resources Command, the Adjutant General Directorate, and CMOD is just one of our 7 divisions, but an extremely important one, and I just can't thank you enough for all you do. So have a great day, and we'll see you later.